Welcome back to another episode of Fix My Firm. Today we're going to be talking about mastering the money side of your law firm. Now, I get a lot of questions from lawyers that are always asking, like, how do I become a master of the money side of my law firm? Now, the first thing I do want to make this disclaimer and tell you is that is not going to be an overnight experience. Think about it this way. How long did it take you to really become a master of the area of law that you practice? It probably wasn't an overnight thing, and it probably wasn't something that you did part-time or occasionally. So if you want to be a master of the money side of your business, you have to be willing to invest the time and the energy because there is a lot to take in. Another thing that you really want to ask yourself is, why do you want to be a master of the finance side of your business? Now, I know a lot of people may just quickly jump out and say, because money is so important. The question I always ask is, do you necessarily need to be a master to achieve the real goal? Because a lot of times, the goal for a lot of lawyers is really, you know what? I just want to feel more comfortable that I know what is going on with my numbers. And I'm like, that is very different from being a master of the money side of your business, because I can help you get comfortable in less than an hour. I can give you some tactics and some approaches that will help you start to get more comfortable, or give you a framework that will help you start to get more comfortable. Now, after you get that framework, we can then add on to it and we can build to help you continue growing so you become more of a master of the money. So let's look at it this way. To become a master, it's going to take some time, but to get you comfortable, I can give you some resources that are going to help you get comfortable, that you understand what's going on a lot faster. So what we're going to do today is we're going to give you the first part of helping you get comfortable to understand the numbers so you can eventually become a master of the money side of your firm. Now, to do this, one of the things that we did after doing research with hundreds of different law firms, doing consulting, doing bookkeeping and CFO services with law firms, is we came up with a health score calculator for your law firm. And what this calculator does is it takes some key financial numbers in your firm that you can find in your financial statements. You plug these numbers in and it's going to give you a health score. It's going to tell you about how healthy your business is, or how financially healthy your law firm is. So we're going to be making this available because we shared it with a few law firms and immediately they said, I would pay thousands of dollars for this, because this not only tells me what my score is, it also helps me give recommendations on what I can do to actually make the numbers better. So we're going to be talking through the components of this financial health score calculator, because I believe it is a framework that is going to help you understand the money side of your law firm a lot faster and a lot clearer. Plus, we'll include a link where you can go to our website and you can actually buy your version of the financial health score calculator, and you can download it, you can use it in your business. We've even had other accounting firms come to us and say, this actually helps and it makes sense for my clients. Hey, can I buy it and use it in my firm to help my clients? Because this financial health score calculator makes it so much easier to understand. So let's walk through it. One of the first areas that you're going to see in the financial health score calculator is going to be revenue. Now, what we want to do is we want to actually look at how much of your revenue is generated by the partners and the owner of the firm versus how much of the revenue is generated by the staff or the resources or the systems in your firm. Now, the reason why this becomes important is because we notice Law firms who tend to have the partners and the owners who are doing most of the revenue generating activity, those are the firms that tend to lead to financial distress more frequently. And here's why. Let's say you're the owner of the firm and you are doing about 80% of the revenue comes from what you do. What happens to the firm when you want to take some time off? What happens to the firm when you want to take a break, or when you say, you know what, I want to spend less time on legal work, more time on working on the business? If 80% of the revenue came from your actual legal work, you taking a step back is going to be a huge hit to the business. So you want to start looking at that thing early on. And the way we've laid out this calculator is, once you plug your numbers in, there is a very visual that will give you what an average firm looks like, what a good firm looks like, and then what an excellent firm looks like. By plugging in your numbers, you're going to see whether you're in the average category, the good category, or the excellent, and it's going to give you a numerical score so you can start to understand, like, how do we score in this area? The next area we want to look at are going to be the expenses. Now, we break the expenses down into two key areas. Those key areas that we're going to break the expenses down, the first one is going to be the mandatory expenses, because we want to really look, how much money are you spending on the mandatory types of expenses in your business? This would be the legal staff. This would be like the system that you use to do the invoicing and the billing, like the system you use to actually interact with your staff and to deliver the legal support that you provide to your clients. So you want to think about those types of systems, like what systems are you using to actually interact with your clients and that are doing a little bit more client facing. Now, when you add those together, what it helps us understand is this is how much money you are spending on the things that you have to do in order to run your firm. And then we want to look at the next level of expenses, all of the other operating expenses. See, the other operating expenses are going to help us understand how much money are you spending on those things that aren't really mandatory, but they are helpful for the firm to operate, or they're things that will actually help you run the firm more efficiently. The key thing we're looking at between these two expense categories is we want to see what percentage of your revenue goes towards mandatory expenses and what percentage goes to your other operating expenses. So think about it this way. Let's say if 70% of your revenue is going directly towards mandatory expenses, which means for every dollar that comes in the door, 70 cents immediately go to covering your mandatory expenses. That means you only have 30% left to cover your operating expense, your other operating expenses, and hopefully there's a little bit left for you as the owner or the partner of the firm. But if you start to look at it that way, what it will do is it'll help you understand, like, hey, we might need to make some adjustments, or where can we make some improvements so that we're not spending too much of our revenue in one area that there isn't going to be enough left for the partners and the owners to see some profitability in the firm. The other thing we want to start looking at after we go through the revenue, after we cover the expenses, is the last section. We want to look at cash. And we're going to break this down into three key areas. First, we want to look at cash in. This is cash that you're actually collecting and that is coming into the business. Often this number is very different than your revenue, because you could be doing the legal work and you could be providing the service, but if you aren't actually going and collecting the money from your clients, then your revenue might not equal what your cash in says. So you want to look at that, and this is what you want to start to understand. How much of the cash that comes into the business, how much of that comes in before the 15th of the month? And then you also want to look at your cash out. How much cash are you paying out? Now, this will be a combination of maybe your expenses plus any loans that you're making payments on, any credit card payments, or any distributions you're doing to the owners or to the partners, because this is going to tell us how much cash do you have going out the door in your firm. Now, the reason why you want to look at these two things separately is because we want to ask ourselves a question. In the first 15 days of the month, how much cash do we have coming in? And then the first 15 days of the month, how much cash do we have going out? Now, what we usually find when we do this analysis are the businesses who have more cash going out in the first 15 days of the month compared to the amount of cash coming in, they usually run into cash flow issues very often, or the owners or the partners then have to go take out extra loans, and the owners and the partners have to do all of this extra stuff to try and close the gap. And the problem could have been solved by just shifting the timing a little bit. For example, they could do something like, instead of making the rent payment and payroll in the same week, what if we separated those two and we tried not to pay large expenses for two different things at the same time? What if we actually created a little bit of more space? Or what if we worked on actually billing our clients more frequently so that we could see more cash come in the first part of the month? There's a ton of different strategies you can look at. We'll probably do a separate video on that. But the last thing I want to talk about in this financial health score calculator is going to be your cash on hand. Now, one way to look at your cash on hand is, since we know how much cash goes out on a monthly basis, we want to ask ourselves, okay, if we looked and said, on average, how much cash goes out the door each week? We want to start asking ourselves is, based on the cash we have on hand, how many weeks could we survive if we didn't have any new cash coming in? So for example, if you have $200,000 sitting in the operating account, but your average expenses are about $20,000 a week. If that's your average expenses, what that tells me is you can probably survive about 10 weeks before the firm is in a dire situation. Now, this becomes important because it lets us know how much of a financial cushion do you have before you got to start making some drastic decisions. And by understanding this, you can start to see how healthy a firm is. Now, when you plug in your numbers for all of these scenarios, this calculator is going to take your numbers and it is going to calculate what your actual score is for your firm. And it's going to tell you, hey, here are some recommendations of things that we think you can do to actually improve this area or this metric of your business. So if you're looking for a way to start to master the money side of your firm, understanding your financial health score can be a great resource to help put you on that path to being able to improve your mastery of the money side of your law firm. So what you can do is click on the link below and you can actually purchase your copy of the financial health score calculator, because it's going to help you break down your finances and give you a framework to make it easier for you to understand what is going on with the money side of your law firm.